Hey guys, welcome back to Sports Crazies. Today we'll talk about why Kobe Bryant was underrated. Let's head into it. Number 1. The flaws with advanced metrics. I believe firmly in never using numbers without the proper context, let alone having them be the end all be all in debates. The issue with advanced metrics, specifically PER and win shares, the two most commonly used metrics, is that a lot of people don't actually understand how they're calculated. Therefore, it's hard to find the flaws and inconsistencies. I'll try my best not to bore those out of you not into advanced metrics, but I have a few explanations detailing some pretty self-explanatory issues. Win shares, like any other stat, just can't take into account everything positive and negative a player does on the court. They're only able to factor in the end result, which is very unfriendly to a player like Kobe Bryant, whose game was never catered to these types of things. Win shares penalize high usage players, since Kobe has never been mistaken for a high efficiency player. Win shares punish him greatly. Someone like Reggie Miller, who was an above average player in terms of efficiency, surpasses someone like Kobe, despite the fact he does a lot less across the board in terms of a full game: scoring, assists, rebounds, defense, etc. It also doesn't take into account things prior to ending of a play. Kobe doesn't get credit for the double teams he caused during his relentless attacking, or the floor spacing he creates by just being on the court, leaving the third or fourth option in a prime example to score, rebound, and just be a disruption to the defense. However, since he doesn't get the assist or the bucket for those particular plays, a lot of his actual impact will be lost on the stat sheet. Just to put things into perspective on how win shares sometimes tell not even 25% of the story, I'm gonna leave some years where player X finished above player Y in win shares, and you can come to your own conclusion on how reliable that stat really is. Must check this: why is Kobe Bryant perceived as an inefficient scorer and shooter when he was anything but? 1990, Hakeem averaged an astonishing 24 and 14 with 5 blocks, 2 steals, and 3 assists. But because his team didn't finish well, he placed behind Terry Porter and Reggie Miller, despite Miller's team having very similar win-loss records. In 1995, the year Hakeem won MVP and his second title, that left Shemp, Dana Barris, and Reggie Miller all finished above Hakeem in win shares. 2002, Brent Barry had more win shares than Jason Kidd, while Elton Brand ended up finishing above Dirk, Shaq, and even Kevin Garnett. Number 2. Kobe played with the best players. Now, before everything starts, I know. If there wasn't Shaq, Kobe wouldn't have 3 of his rings. While I completely agree and understand the value of rings over stats, it did hurt Kobe from a statistical standpoint. In the long run, not only did Kobe have to play second fiddle to, at the time, the best player in the world, he had to sit on the bench for the good part of 2 years, opposed to someone like LeBron, who was given the keys from the jump ship. In Kobe's first 2 seasons, he played a combined 3,159 minutes. To put that into perspective, LeBron played 3,122 minutes in his first season alone, so Kobe was already behind the ball in terms of opportunity. And when the opportunity finally came for him to take on a bigger role in his third season, Shaq had already arrived on the scene, in the form of the best player on the team and in the league. Kobe, with 6 years of starting basketball along with Shaq, still managed to average 25 points before he even reached his prime. Kobe, in his first full season removed from Shaq, managed to have a historical season averaging 35.4 points per game, which featured games where he outscored teams by himself. A whole month of averaging over 44 points, and of course his 81-point game. That season followed by another that wasn't too shabby, where he won his second straight scoring title, and another scoring setting stretch where he had 4 straight 50-point games. Scoring, of course, isn't the only aspect of the game. Following Shaq's departure, Kobe had his best passing season, and his 3-point efficiency jumped significantly while taking no noticeable hits to other parts of his game. He also still managed to make defensive teams year after year, despite the workload increasing. This is all to show you that it's expected that players like Jordan and LeBron have superior career numbers than Kobe, who wasn't thrown into the starting role off the rip, and spent nearly half his career alongside the best player in the league, where he didn't have the opportunity to win more MVPs, scoring titles, and reach individual feats. Taking all those things into consideration, it's that much more impressive that Kobe managed to keep a 25, 5-5 career stat line. Could you imagine the ridiculous numbers Kobe would have put up if he never played the second fiddle? Would you rank Kobe higher all time if he had 3 rings, but had a 36-6 career stat line? Number 3. Playstyle. Kobe, I will be the first to tell you, as a longtime Laker fan and biggest Kobe fan you'll know, took a lot of bad shots over the course of his career, a lot to the detrimental to some of his teams and his own career most of all. Kobe retired as the last of the dying breed of isolation players. Even in the later parts of his career, where his skills diminished and his athleticism dwindled away, his playstyle stayed the same. Kobe was never the player to stand in the corner and run off screens. He wasn't the player who preferred plays ran for him, just gave him the ball and get the hell out of his way. That was what made Kobe so great, his cutthroat playstyle, the assassin's mentality. But at the same time, his biggest attribute was his biggest weakness. His playstyle has never fitted the advanced metric system. His shot selection definitely didn't either. PER especially has always valued quality over quantity. That has always been the knock on Kobe, especially as we step further away from his career and look back. His 44% career shooting percentage and the holder for the most missed shots in NBA history will always hang over Kobe's head. It will be the end-on, be-all for most of his critics. Kobe Bryant broke his record on November 2014. He managed to get 14,481 missed shots until the end of his career. While I agree, those numbers don't look great for Kobe, I think it's taken out a bit of context. People get shooting percentage confused with the ability to shoot or ability to score. In reality, it tells you more about the shot selection than anything else. A lot of people don't really label Kobe as a jump shooter, but that is where a majority of his shots came from. Early in his career, before he had developed a real jump shot, he hovered around 46%, which isn't bad at all for a guard. But as his career went on, he relied heavily on his fadeaway, baseline jumpers, and sometimes contested jumpers over two defenders. Or on this reason, Kobe had no one to blame but himself. I think the criticism gets overblown and overstated. It affects him heavily in terms of advanced metrics, like PER in particular, and 44% career shooting just doesn't look good any way you slice it. Number 4. Conclusion. In conclusion, Kobe's full impact will never be felt on the stat sheets. His game was never tailored towards metrics, PER, or win shares. There'll never be a perfect stat that truly captures a player's full impact. While stats will always be important and give people general ideas of where what players do and don't do well, everything should be taken into context. No one stat should ever be the end all be all of any argument. This brings us to the end of our video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit like if you did, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss any of our videos in the future. Also, watch the 2 videos that are on your screen because I'm sure you'll love them. With that, I'll see you in the next video.